Noob D&D Dad here, and we are going to talk about my son's campaign that I am the DM for, sessions 24 and 25. So this is the third campaign that I am DMing for. So the first two campaigns are my son and my friend and a cousin, and they're both in here, by the way. And the second campaign is an Army veterans group, so where I'm the DM for a bunch of Army vets, and then the third campaign is brand new. We're still working through session 0 for a super little kid campaign for my kids. So 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and 9-year-old. So modifying the rules for that one. So if you like session recaps and just what I'm learning as a noob DM, then join me on this journey. All right, so the players were last in the Dragon Barrow, and they had met the Centaur, and this is where we have 3 extra people that wanted to join in the game. And like I said in the last video, it was looking like they were just going to join for a one-time go. So how do you handle it when you have randos that want to join your campaign in the middle of the campaign? What do you do? So what I did is I told them that they could just make characters and join in, but that we wouldn't interrupt these guys' campaign because they're here ongoing for their campaign. So that's what we did. They didn't make their characters in advance. I was a little surprised by that because they said they would. So we just made them all on D&D Beyond real quick, and that worked out okay. So story-wise, the way that I worked them in, so the Centaur had met my son's group and does the thing that he does in the Dragon of Icespire Peak, which is he wants you to go to the Circle of Thunder to clear out the evil half-orc spellcasters from Neverwinter Wood. So that's the Centaur's objective. So he doesn't want to go into the Dragon Barrow, so my son and friend go down in there and do their thing, and the Centaur's like, I'm going to wait outside. And then when my people came out, the Centaur's like, hey, I have some adventurers I want you to meet. I found some more people that I want to go help go to this Circle of Thunder and help deal with this problem. But I always, sometimes it's just on the fly. I'm like, I want to have the players have an interaction on the way somewhere, right? I want to have traveling have a cost, whether it's combat or money cost or time or whatever it is. So as they're cutting through the forest to go to the Circle of Thunder, they start noticing webs all around them. So as they're riding their horses and walking, like webs are getting in their faces, and it's starting to get gross and a little bit darker. And then they turn around and look behind them, and there's webs behind them from where they just came. So essentially, as they're moving through the forest, all of a sudden they're just running into more and more webs, and then there's webs behind them, and then it's pretty much roll initiative time, because I've decided that 6 giant spiders are going to attack them. And then, of course, there has to be a mama spider boss after this, right? So we go through like 4 rounds of combat, everyone fighting these spiders. My mother-in-law was one of the people joining in, and some other family members, and it was fun to see them catch the spirit of D&D. Like, I'm describing what's happening, right? Like when they freeze the eyeballs, they like shatter and fall off, or they're chopping limbs off and stuff and guts, and everyone's just loving it. And my mother-in-law even added some like gory parts. She's like, yeah, and then like this happened, and I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. But it's like, yes, you're getting into it. You're getting into like the pretend and the imagination. And so having these 3 extra people, it was a little bit stressful, but I kind of took the stress off by just saying, you're joining in. You're adventuring. You're joining in where these guys are. And here's the plot reason why you're there, and we'll just see how far you make it. And in my mind, I was like, they're going to make it to the Circle of Thunder. They're all going to fight this thunderboar together. But being me, I'm like, you also are going to fight spiders on the way there. And combat always takes longer than I think it will. And it was awesome. They were using all their powers and all their weapons and all their different things, and someone even set off a thunder wave a couple times, which sends out a really loud noise for 300 feet. So it was fun to kind of create an ominous feeling, be like, yeah, anyone, like people heard that, so it's like you may not want to stay here after you defeat these people. I actually forgot the Centaur was there for a minute, so he didn't really participate in combat until the very end, so my bad. And something happened that I always will take advantage of, where the players are using fire in the forest to destroy spiders, right? Like firebolt or whatever. So a tree canopy fire got started. And I was just like, hey, here we go. Because I'm always trying to start fires in all these campaigns. Anytime anyone uses fire, I instantly want it to catch on something and start spreading and have them have to deal with it, right? So in the past, we've had players use mage hands to dig a fire line, which I loved. My son ends up using Ray of Frost a lot because he starts a lot of fires. So it's like he starts them, then he has to Ray of Frost them out. Anyway, so same thing. They use Ray of Frost to put out the forest fire, to my disappointment. All right, so at this point in session number 24, the rando players that had joined us, it was actually time for them to leave. So we had a set time frame. That time frame passed. A huge amount of that time frame was taken up with them creating characters, which is why I wanted them to pre-roll them. My son was worried that if we added people that they would spend the whole time making characters, and I was like, very valid, but I told them. Anyway, so they arrived and, of course, justified his worries. Smart little guy. So, story-wise, the new adventurers had to go, and we weren't going to just run their characters, because that's a lot to all of a sudden just do. So what it was is that they all got kind of hurt in the battle, and they were like, you know what? That was scary. Maybe we'll just go back to town and heal, and maybe we'll meet you guys later in the future. And it's open. These characters now exist in this world, and they can come back anytime they want. But for now, as adventurers, they were a little bit injured and they needed to go back to town. I don't know if they're just going to go get normal jobs or if they'll come back. My guess is they won't come back, but not because they don't want to, but because they live in another state, and timing is difficult. But the party separates. So now it's just my son, my friend, and actually just the two of them. I think they were controlling the cousin. I think the cousin left too. He hasn't been showing up as much, so they've been driving his character like an NPC sidekick. Not that's those two words are contradictory. Like a sidekick. So and they'll take turns controlling him. And I told my son, this is kind of in the future a little bit that I told him this, but I told him that when he is driving the cousin's character, that he needs to try to make decisions for that character that character would make, because one time the cousin was gone and my son started using the character to basically just do the bidding of his character, and it's like, no, that's not how you do it. Okay, so the randos leave, and now it's back to the original party, and they're still in the forest, and I decided that I wanted this forest encounter to continue, and so I just drew like an underground cave, like suchly. So here's the forest up here, and it goes down here into these bubble chambers, and then there's actually an underwater river. I'll get into this in a minute. And so there's like the circle of webs around them, right, for the spider battle. And then as they're moving forward, I have it become like a webbed tunnel and get thicker and thicker and thicker and go down to a flat like web hatch on the floor. And so I think my son like firebolts it open, and they decide to go exploring down there. And I was kind of improving it as they were going to also see how far they're going to go. And a little bit of spoiler alert for the veterans group, I actually ended up using the same cave system that I invented for their group, but I changed one minor thing and they explored it a little bit deeper. So more on this cave in the future, but I actually really like this. Forgive the crudeness of the design. It does not look great, but in our imaginations, it was totally awesome. Okay, so here is the surface of the forest floor, and here's the little web hatch and the trees, right? So then they go down here. It's like a mud tunnel, just dirt round tunnel. And then over here, there's a ton of little spider eggs all over the place. It's all humid in there. I decide that every time I have spider eggs, that I'm going to make it all gross and humid in there and just have them like twitching and like little crackly noises, just to make it gross, And then over here, I have another chamber full of old dusty clothes. Just nothing special, but just tons of old clothes, thinking that the spiders will have removed the clothing from a bunch of bodies before they wrapped them up. So then there is a little tiny tunnel down here that they go down and use a rope, and my friend the sorcerer goes down there. So this is the water, and then this gap here is between the ceiling. So the idea is to create like a claustrophobic feeling. So, and the water's not flowing too fast, they can just brace themselves on the edges. But because the ceiling gets lower and lower and lower, and then they have to be brave and go underneath there into another chamber where I had a skeleton with a leather journal that's mostly just water destroyed. I also straight up decided to have a pearl of power on a skeleton down here that was stuck under the water. And then he went down even further into another chamber where there was a few spider eggs and a box. I have them roll the D100 treasure table for this in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And then there's another tunnel that connects here to here, and then eventually they fight the big mama spider here. So session 25 is basically them just fighting the giant spider, and I think getting whatever treasures left to get down there. But I had mentioned in a previous video that my son was getting frustrated because he felt like everyone else was getting cool items, and it seemed like he wanted more like combat items, and he's a wizard. And so somebody suggested in the comments, thank you by the way, a book, a very, very powerful book called Protective Verses. And I looked that thing up online, and it's kind of, some of it's kind of complicated, but it is an incredibly powerful item. And I'm like, I'm gonna have him find this in here. Maybe that's too much for, I think he's level 5 at this time. I'm like, I want him to find something awesome and then like learn how to use it. So they find Protective Verses in with the spider eggs, and what else did they find? Pearl of Power for my sorcerer friend, and then in the box under the, actually I don't think I rolled for that treasure either, the light crossbow +2. I think I just, no, did I roll for that? From table G. Yeah, I think I actually did have them roll for that. And so they got a light crossbow +2. The big mama spider battle, let's see, it took them like 5 rounds of combat. And I think I ended up raising it to 120 hit points. So I'm kind of scaling these battles, and to the point where I'm like, you guys can just go find Cryovane the White Dragon. You'll probably win. Like, if I leave his stat block the same, like, they would probably take him out. So it's been interesting. It'll be an interesting encounter when they encounter him, when my son's group encounters him. But I decided that once they finally killed the spider, I think now the cousin who is the fighter, he's kind of become like the decapitator. It's like the two magic people wear monsters down, and then he goes up and just like chops their head off and kills them. So it's kind of like his role. So after that happened, the giant spider was like still walking around, and I had everybody roll a dexterity or an athletics check for the twitchy body with a DC 12. And the spider fell. I think it crushed, I can't remember who it fell on, but I had it to a D10 bludgeoning damage if they failed the saving throw. So the big body just like fell on them and did some damage to them. So I'm very proud of this little cave system that I invented. And again, I know it's not pretty, right? But there's an entrance, there's 2 side chambers, there's the mama chamber, and then there's like a cool thing under here, and then some chambers and a connecting thing. And part of what I like to do in D&D is invent situations that would cause emotions or fear, or like claustrophobia, or, you know, like with me with wildland firefighting, just makes fire situations that would make people feel scared or trapped. So I just want to do that and then see what decisions people make. So I felt like this cave was a really good opportunity to face claustrophobia, like fear of drowning, fear of spiders, fear of just dark, scary, smelly places. And so I had a ton of fun improvising it. And again, they didn't make it to the Circle of Thunder in these 2 sessions, and I totally thought that's where they were going to go. But I don't know. I just feel like in my head, I'm like, and now there's spiders in the forest. I've been thinking about spiders in the forest for a long time. And I feel like it makes more sense in their campaign, because they're in this campaign with my son, Mount Hotnow has actually erupted. And it's burned a ton of the forest, and it's driven a lot of wildlife and people down south. And so there's an added concentration of spiders and other things in the woods. So story-wise, it actually works really well for me to improv them finding stuff. I think I also had them find, if I look at my notes correctly, 2,000 gold down in this cave. And I think it's just because they fought such a big boss and did so well doing it. Now, spoiler alert for their future when they do make it to the Circle of Thunder, it's rough. The veterans group, when they made it there, it was not as bad, but when my son's group makes it there, like, I mean, it is almost a TPK again, total party kill, like this close, hanging by a thread. So stay tuned if you want to see how I once again almost murdered my entire son's party, which I've been informed by my wife would not be good. All right, that is sessions 24 and 25 for my son's campaign that I am the DM, the Noob DM for. Now, I am the Noob DM for 3 groups now. So if you like the idea of just following a Noob DM's journey through this, then please stay tuned, subscribe, and talk to me, and make sure to tell your mom. But thanks for watching. I love reading your comments, and been having fun with this game. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye.